Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of The Terri Cole Show. I want to start with a question. Do you consider yourself, when you're in a relationship, like a magnanimous giver, where you're giving from your heart, you're giving from love, you're giving from equanimity, right? You're not giving and then bitter about it. You're giving sort of lovingly. Or do you find yourself to be a little bit more tit-for-tat or bean counting when it comes to being in a relationship? Or maybe you're in a relationship with someone who is like that, who's like, well, I did this for you and now I expect you to do this for me. If you're nodding your head yes to any of these, this video is for you, my friend. So today I'm going to be breaking down the difference in relationships. These are sort of ways of relating. One is called relational, which is the one I described, more heart-centered. And one is transactional, which is a little bit more like tit for tat. I expect this from you if I do this for you. We see a lot of transactional relationships in family systems, especially in wealthy family systems. Yes, I'll quote unquote, buy you a house or buy you an apartment or pay for whatever, but I have an expectation from you. There is a transaction that is going to happen because of my generosity in quotes. I'm also going to be giving you steps how you can be more balanced in the middle, because sometimes, depending on the relationship, transactional makes sense. And you don't want the pendulum to swing too far in either direction, because if it's too much relational, that was me when I was younger. I didn't have a lot of discernment. So I was relating to everyone this way and of course got my feelings hurt quite a bit. Or if you're swinging all the way over to transactional, that's just too much of thinking about yourself. So that's what we're covering in today's video. So before we get started, if you happen to be new to this channel, please introduce yourself. Well, hello and welcome. Also, make sure that you subscribe and hit the little bell icon so that you actually get notified every time I roll out new stuff, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday, because I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. So subscribe, would you? Do it right now. Just click the button. It's super easy. All right. If you don't know me, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. I want to say thank you so much, everyone on this channel, for all of your questions and your comments and your interest and your enthusiasm about your mental health. I love it so much. I read all of your questions and your comments, as you know, and respond to almost all of them as well. And I love to highlight them. So Bethany, under the video, How to Identify and Manage Your Emotional Triggers, says, hello, my name is Bethany. My therapist recommended a few of your videos about managing boundaries. I am so appreciative of your videos and wisdom and advice. Your experience is so helpful. I can't even tell you. Thank you so much, Terri. Well, thank you so much, Bethany. And thank you so much, Bethany's therapist. I really do love being therapy approved. It super duper makes my day. Okay, so let's jump into today's content. Let's talk about the differences right now between, and I'm going to get into real specific differences, but relational connections are rooted, right? They're solid. They are reciprocal, right? There's a natural give and take in a relational connection, and they're naturally rewarding. It just feels good. It's like a safe space. Transactional connections, they're more self-serving. A lot of times they can be more temporary, and they're taxing on the mind and on the body. I think about the way that I was when I was younger. As a human being, I'm way more relational. And it would behoove me to be more transactional, probably, at times. I've grown up a lot in the past many years that I've been alive, obviously, but I always seem to come from a relational, an other-focused perspective when I'm thinking about my friends or my sisters or my mothers or my husband or my kids or my grandkids. And I think that this also can be a stayover or a layover or a residual impact of being in recovery from high-functioning codependency. Because as a codependent of any kind, we become really masterful at focusing our attention on the other people, prioritizing wants, needs, desires of others above our own. So that's something to really think about, and I'm going to try to sort of separate that out throughout this episode, but there's no way I could not talk about it. I feel like Vic and I are both heavily leaning towards relational, which of course in a marriage, that's good because I'm always thinking about him, but he's always thinking about me too. So I feel like when you have relationships where it's a narcissist and a codependent, let's say, the codependent is always thinking about the narcissist and the narcissist is always thinking about the narcissist, right? So sooner or later, that thing is going to blow up because there's only so much that the codependent is going to be able to take. I feel like if you're in a relational one the way Vic and I are, of course, you're self-focused to a normal, healthy degree, but every decision that I make, like Vic doesn't just make decisions without me. He doesn't decide he's going to go to, be embedded in a war zone for 6 weeks without talking to me about it. And yes, he does do things like that. But he would never just make a unilateral decision, even though he's a grown adult and I don't own him. But I appreciate the consideration. And I'm the same thing. I'm not going to book a book tour without talking to him about the dates in our life and what else we're doing and how he feels about it and would he like to come with me on some of those things. And that consideration, I think in a healthy long-term relationship can come pretty naturally. But not all long-term relationships have this. I can see where for Vic and I, both of us, our relational nature has harmed us business-wise. Because Vic is even worse than I am when it comes to positive projection, where we make assumptions, we make positive assumptions about other people that they're like us, or that if we have a certain moral compass or moral code or our values, our integrity, whatever that is. When I was younger, I literally just thought everybody was the same. Like I thought everybody was like me. And I'm not saying I was Mother Teresa, but I'm just saying like I have morals and values and virtues and all of those things. And I just assumed everyone else did. So I got screwed over a lot. Vic and I actually, more than a lot of people we know, have gotten really screwed by people in our lives financially. More than I think perhaps the average person. That's a whole other episode. Maybe one day I'll talk about it. Maybe not. I haven't talked about it much publicly because, it's pretty painful. But I mean, that was years ago. But the fact that we both had fallen into situations where someone had false promises or defrauded us of money, where again, if you would never do that and you haven't had those experiences yet in life, there's a part of you that just thinks people don't do that. And of course, we know they do. But it's so hard to think that way because it's not the way that I view humankind. You know what I mean? Generally speaking. I mean, I've become way more self-protective, obviously, because what happens when you have painful experiences, hopefully, you learn from them. When I started doing research for this episode, and really the reason I did it is that somebody asked me a question on social media about sort of a tit-for-tat relationship, and it got me thinking about transactional and relational, and I thought, wow, if this is something that is interesting to me, hopefully it'll be interesting to you. Transactional relationships, outside of romantic or emotionally based relationships, right? Business relationships are basically going to be transactional. So I'm not really talking about that unless you're like Vic and I, and you are bringing a relational attitude into your business relationships. And this can cause a problem because it's just like companies that relate to the people that work there, quote unquote, as family, And like, I love Team TC, no doubt. And actually, some of Team TC is my family. Okay, let's full disclosure. But we're also all clear what the goal is and what we're doing together, which is the highest and best for the company, right? For my actual company. So I think you can do both, but you have to know where your priorities are in business. But let's move this back to what I really wanted to talk about, which is long-term relationships or marriages. How do they look different? So I'm going to talk a little bit about what a transactional union looks like and what a relational union looks like. Transactional union is self-focused. I'm thinking about getting my needs met. Before I agree to something, I want to know, what do I get out of it? If I win, then you kind of have to lose, right? It's almost like can't be two winners if it's a transactional union. You must understand my views, right? So there's not a lot of room for difference. It's also very result oriented, right? Again, like what are the tangible results? Also, a lot of evaluation about you did this well, you didn't do this well. So there's a decent amount of judgment. There's a lot of expectations and a lot of silent agreements, silent and spoken expectations in transactional unions. There's also punishment, where if you don't meet what the other person wants you to do, if they don't feel like you have sort of quote unquote paid them back, they can be withdrawn in anger. There can be actual punishment and judgment. Think about it more as quid pro quo, which we think about that when it comes to business or politics, where it's like, I do for you, you do for me. That's really, in a healthy marriage, there isn't really room for that. And there is room for fairness, which I'm going to get to when we get to the healthy relationship. There's tons of judgment in a transactional union. There's a lot of blame in a transactional union. And thinking that there's not enough, right? It's almost like this scarcity mindset. It would have to be for you to be so self-focused and so worried that you're not going to get yours. Where does that come from? That comes from a belief, unconscious or conscious, that there simply is not enough. So if we juxtaposition this with a relational union, you are focused on the other person. How will this impact them? What can I give? I'm always thinking, like, what can I do to make Vic's life easier? And he's always thinking that about me and doing things. We both win or we both lose together. That is the attitude. So it's like I'm never on the other side. You know what I mean? I'm always on Team Victor Uhas. Always. No matter what. Because he's my person, no matter what, right? I want to understand your views, which is different than you must understand my views. It's that I want to understand your views. I will simply ask Vic about something, and I'm not asking him to write a dissertation or justify it. I will say, why do you think that? Honest question, I really want to know. It's being more person-oriented. There's more validating the other person. You know, every night Vic and I do our 3 gratitudes and our favorite sort of snapshot of the day. And so much of that is us seeing each other. Right? And yes, we do talk a lot about productivity, even though I keep saying we're not going to, but we do. Because we're both ambitious and like to get stuff done. But it feels so good to be witnessed by the other and know that we're kind of cheering each other on for whatever it is that we want to accomplish. Compromising in a relational union. Understanding that relationships are a process, right? It's not always going to be great. Forgiving each other. We make mistakes. We get bitchy. We get mean. We do the wrong thing sometimes. But having a real beautiful forgiveness policy for both of us, right? For both people. It's not just about one person always forgiving the other. It's knowing that there's room to make mistakes and still be loved and still be accepted. And that's the next thing, is just accepting the other person with their shortcomings. You know, like with their shortcomings, because I've got mine, he's got his, you've got yours, your person's got theirs, like we all do. And then of course there can be healthy boundaries if those shortcomings are damaging you in some way. But generally speaking, we can look at our partner and think of all the things that they do wrong or all the things that they don't do the way you would do. But that's where acceptance comes in. And giving rewards, giving compliments, being appreciative, saying thank you. And I think it's really important, and this is very different than transactional, where both people take responsibility for their actions, for what they're doing, for what they're bringing into the relationship, and believing that there's enough, right? If Vic is worried about something and he's like, well, I probably shouldn't go on this thing because, you know, we're getting the house worked out, whatever the thing is, whatever he's worried about. I am always coming from, it's okay. Like, if you want to do this thing, do it, and we'll figure it out. Rather than being from that scared or that scarcity mindset. Now, I think that there's a lot of reasons why we end up in one or the other of these as our predominant style relationship-wise. I have some questions for you in the guide. Just go to terricole.com/guide, because I'm curious to see which one of these you identify with more. And if you have ever brought a really relational vibe into your business and how that has impacted you. Because I feel like this is a longer conversation, maybe than one episode, but I find all of it incredibly fascinating, and I want to know from you. Do you feel like you are naturally more transactional or naturally more relational? And there's no way that we can't, in a way, go back to the scene of the crime. Right? We have to go back to childhood. We have to go back to where so many of this learned behavior, because you can change this. If you discover from the questions that I give you in the guide that you're more transactional and you kind of wish you weren't, there are things that you can do. But deepening your understanding of why you relate the way that you do is definitely the first step. What do I always say? The first pillar of, transformation, of self-love, of changing anything is awareness. And you've got to be aware of what you're actually doing now. But also, there's a little bit of a blueprint here. And I know for my own life, I had a very generous and loving mom who I never felt afraid to talk to her, or she never thought about herself. And I know that wasn't great, but she was always focused on us and on what we were doing, and is still, she's almost 86, and she still can't wait to listen to all the things of my day. And having that kind of devotion and love and generosity emotionally from someone heavily impacts who you become in the world, just like not having it heavily impacts. And if you had a parent that was very transactional, and it was like, if you do this, my father was more transactional, get good grades and I'll give you $20, right? There was always trying to motivate, and more with money, because he didn't have emotional support to give because he had the emotional IQ of a sneaker. You know what I mean? Rest in peace, Dad. You understand. He knows now that he's in his highest and best form. He gets what his shortcomings were in life. But I feel like I had really two different experiences, but that came together and that shaped who I became in life. And then years of therapy also impacted, for me, of course, who I become and how I relate now. So I'm curious to hear, did this resonate with you? Is it interesting to you? And are you more relational or transactional? You guys know where I hang out. Check me out on Instagram. Let me know that you listen to this, and why don't you post like a little video and tag me and I'll repost it. I love to feel like I'm not in this vortex by myself. Thank you for spending time with me today. Make sure you get the guide at terricole.com/guide. And as always, take care of you.